methylation is the most important biochemical process in the body that no one knows about?
How does somebody know if they have poor methylation?
Really just about anything. And that's not a cop-out answer because it's a global universal process. Anything from fatigue, brain fog, low energy, digestive complaints, hormonal imbalances, like estrogen dominance actually is a common symptom of.
Welcome to the Natural Health Rising podcast, where I challenge the outdated medical model and empower you with the knowledge to heal naturally. I'm Rachel Smith, a certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner who has helped hundreds of people eliminate symptoms of autoimmune diseases and mystery illnesses naturally. On this show, I dive into the real reasons behind health challenges, covering topics like gut health, toxins, nutrition, relationships, stress, and everything in between. My goal is to empower you, provide you with effective holistic health tips, and help you rise up to your healthiest, happiest self. On today's episode, I have Ryan Monahan with us. So Ryan Monahan is a certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, a national board certified health and wellness coach, certified AIP coach, and clinical advisor. And after 10 years of struggling to find answers to his own health issues, he finally got a diagnosis of Hashimoto's in 2012. Now he has a passion for uncovering the hidden stressors of thyroid disease, and his mission is to change the dialogue about chronic disease towards a holistic, functional approach while helping others restore their health to normal function. Welcome back to the show, Ryan, because you were a guest a very, very long time ago, I think a few years ago.
Yeah, glad to be back. I want to say it was maybe even longer than that, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I don't know the exact timeline, but yeah. I'm pumped to be doing this again.
It's been a while. Well, I'm happy to have you back because we're going to get into such a juicy, fun topic today, and one that I think there's a lot of mystery and a lot of misunderstanding around, which is the topic of methylation. So I'm so stoked to get into that. But first, I would love to know, we won't go super deep into your story if people want to go back to the other episode. I think we talked about it there, but after personally experiencing our very frustrating medical system before your Hashimoto's diagnosis, how has that experience kind of shaped your approach and what you're doing and helping people with today?
Well, it shaped my approach in that I'm a firm believer in this concept that symptoms are not the problem, they're the result of the problem. And that the same would be true for any kind of autoimmune condition like Hashimoto's. I actually view autoimmunity as being a symptom, as being downstream from deeper dysfunction in the body. So if we're really truly looking to resolve an autoimmune condition like Hashimoto's or lupus or arthritis, whatever it might be, we have to look at all the different parts and pieces of the body holistically, preferably with a test, don't guess approach, and see what might be interfering with the body's natural processes so we can restore optimal balance and function to the system.
Mm-hmm. And what does that look like with your clients today?
Yeah, so typically when I'm working with a client, I like to do a deep dive, right? So I'm not one to just do kind of a one-off consult and look at, just a single lab, that sort of thing. To really truly heal deeply from within at the cellular level and experience that sort of upward spiral, we need to look at every aspect or every body system from, hormones, immune system, digestion, detoxification, see how all of these things are either working or not working. So, you're very well familiar with this term, Rachel, of looking for hidden stress in the body. Right. So in that sense, you and I act like health detectives. We're looking to use the lab work to identify these hidden stressors in the body and to resolve them, get the body back to working normally again. But it's not just about removing the bad. It's also about focusing on improving the good, like encouraging, a healthy, nutrient-dense diet and movement and exercise, and raising our level of consciousness and reducing stress and optimizing our life around our sleep schedule. And all of these things really need to be in place foundationally. I see them as non-negotiable pillars of health. Just like a plant needs water, sunlight, and healthy soil, human beings need a healthy diet, rest, exercise, lots of stress reduction in order to experience that state of optimal health and live their best life.
Mm-hmm. Great explanation. And we could talk for hours about all those little pillars and different things that we get to do for our health. But today is going to be about methylation. So where does that fit into the puzzle? And what exactly is methylation? Why should we care about this?
It's a really good question. I like to say that methylation is the most important biochemical process in the body that no one knows about. So when I say it's an important biochemical process, just to paint a picture here, methylation occurs in every single cell of your body, except for red blood cells, which don't have a nucleus, but for all intents and purposes, every single cell of the body. And it's like this big biochemical dance of passing around these things called methyl groups. We'll talk more about what those are and why they're important. And we're passing these things back and forth between molecules, DNA, protein, enzymes, neurotransmitters, billions of times every second. Right? So this is like a global, universal process that can affect a lot of things. There's a lot of misconceptions around it that you mentioned earlier. I'd love to talk about those as well. But methylation is as key and fundamental to life as water. Right? So it's something that I feel everyone should at least have some basic understanding around, and how to assess methylation function through lab testing, how to prevent methylation from breaking down, and how to optimize methylation with those pillars of health, with diet and lifestyle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how does somebody know if they have poor methylation? Like,
yeah,
on a physical level, like they're walking around and they feel what?
Really just about anything. And that's not a cop-out answer, because it's a global universal process, and we're exchanging these methyl groups around, billions of times a second. Methylation's involved in detoxification. About 80% of methylation activity is concentrated in the liver, even though it happens all throughout the body. It's involved in cell membrane production. So if we're undermethylating, we could have, cell membrane breakdown. It's involved in neurotransmitter production. It's involved in energy production, epigenetic expression. And I'd love to dive into each of these a bit further, but more like every day, practically speaking, if we're undermethylating or experiencing a methylation imbalance, anything from fatigue, brain fog, low energy, digestive complaints, hormonal imbalances, like estrogen dominance actually is a common symptom of methylation issues. So, PMS, acne, irritability, some of these things, or even weight gain, some of these things that can come along with estrogen dominance. Histamine issues is a big one. If you're not methylating, histamine levels can start to get out of control. So all of your sinus issues, ear, nose, and throat issues, so sneezing, itchy eyes, rashes or hives or eczema throughout the body, asthma, to name a few, any of those sort of histamine-related symptoms. Not sure if I mentioned that methylation issues are more associated with autoimmune conditions. So those with MTHFR mutations, we'll talk about what that is and what it means. They're more likely to actually get diagnosed with an autoimmune condition like Hashimoto's or lupus. Schizophrenia is more common with MTHFR mutations. Miscarriages are more common when we're not minding our methylation, and neural tube defects as well. So it can really impact. This is why I say it's such a fundamental process that can affect just about anything you can imagine in the body. So to put a bow on that and wrap that thought up, when I'm working with a client, this is something I check the methylation status for every single individual that I'm working with.
And how do you do that?
Yeah. So from a lab perspective, I would say my number one favorite way to assess methylation status would be looking at homocysteine levels.
Mm-hmm.
So that's different than checking your MTHFR genetic status. We can talk about that too. But homocysteine is more of a dynamic marker. It's more of an assessment of our functional methylation status.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, roughly speaking, the way it works is that they're inversely related. There's an indirect relationship. So as our methylation activity drops or declines or is underperforming, homocysteine levels will start to rise. Now, we don't want that long term. Homocysteine levels, when they're too elevated, and we need some homocysteine. For example, we need homocysteine to make glutathione, which is the body's master antioxidant. But if homocysteine levels start to rise, it's sort of a toxic protein. It can contribute to a lot of oxidative stress, endothelial stress, so blood vessel damage.
Mm-hmm.
And from a cardiovascular perspective, high homocysteine levels is associated with higher cardiovascular disease risk.
Yes.
So I should add to that too, if we're talking about testing, I love organic acids for assessing methylation status as well. There are certain factors in terms of what's going on in the gut or even with heavy metal toxicity that can inhibit methylation. And there's also other ways of assessing methylation function more directly on the organic acid test. So for example, there's a marker for folate status on the OAT test. It's a marker called uracil. And if uracil levels are high, that would indicate a folate deficiency. And folate is very, very key to overall methylation health and status. It might be the most important nutrient overall for healthy methylation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, amazing. Yeah, I always look at everybody's homocysteine levels as well. And I'm just, it's another one of those things that just kind of shocks me that it's not paid attention to more. Similarly with like free T3, for example, how that gets missed all the time. It's like one of those markers where I'm like, okay, but what's your homocysteine levels? Okay, so where do we want to take this? Because there's so much information that we want to dive into. Yeah. You want to get into like how methylation plays a role in these different areas like detoxification, like energy levels. You want to dive a little bit deeper into that?
I think it might help to start with a little bit of the basic biochemistry, and I promise I'll try to keep it as simple as I can for your audience.
Okay.
And kind of building from there, right?
Let's do it.
So let's do that. And then, we could get more into some of the functions. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
Cool. Awesome. By the way, I agree with your thoughts on homocysteine. It's a very affordable marker.
Mm-hmm.
To run it just standalone a la carte, it can't be more than $10 or $20, if that, to run homocysteine. So it's something, because I'm homozygous for MTHFR, I check it at least once a year. I used to check it more often than that, but once I got a good handle on it, just kind of like once a year.
And let's not leave a cliffhanger here, actually.
Okay.
You like to see it, I'm assuming, below what, like 7? Or
yeah, so 7 actually, that number would be pretty ideal.
7's perfect, yeah.
So like 6 to 9 is a little bit broader. Generally speaking, I think you're in good shape if it's in that range. Around a 7 to 8, if we're tightening it down, would be kind of almost perfect.
Yeah.
And so again, the higher that number, the more that's like a check engine light for a methylation problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so, perfect. Cool.
So let's talk about methylation basics.
Okay. Ryan's biochemistry class. Let's go.
Methylation 101. So, all right, methylation is a process. It's dynamic. It's fluid. It's always going on every second in your body. It can fluctuate depending on what your body needs at any given moment. But really, like the boring definition of methylation is the exchange of these methyl groups in the body. And methyl groups, for you biochemistry nerds out there, it's simply 1 carbon and 3 hydrogen. So that would be designated by writing out CH3. So these CH3 molecules are really extremely important for activating. Think of them as like a master key, these methyl groups that activate all these processes, just like a master key might open all of the rooms in a hotel room. Just a loose analogy. So I mentioned it happens in every cell of the body except for red blood cells.
Mm-hmm.
And one important thing is, where do these methyl groups come from? They primarily, almost exclusively, come from the diet. So right away, practical tip for everyone, one of the best things you can do to support methylation is get more methyl groups, or we would call them methyl groups, from your diet. And there's really 3 or 4 primary sources or groups where those can come from. One would be folate in the diet, so foods that are rich in methylfolate or methylfolate precursors, things like leafy greens, organ meats, broccoli, avocados, asparagus, and lentils would be a really good starting place. Those would be some of the highest foods in dietary folate. One little kind of neat key little clinical pearl here, the word folate comes from a Greek or Latin word, the origin of that word meaning foliage. So if you think folate foliage, it's an easy way to remember where we get our folate from. So that's kind of a neat little way to make it stick in the brain. So we can get these methyl groups, the CH3, from leafy greens. We can get them from choline. So ideal sources of choline would be egg yolks or just eggs in general, but they're more concentrated in the yolks. Liver, beef, fish, chicken, and actually Brussels sprouts, but primarily animal protein. And then betaine or betaine, however you prefer to pronounce that, which we would get mostly from beets and spinach, right? So anything on that list, if you all want to write that down, these are like methylation superfoods, I call them. Mm-hmm. The more you're eating these foods, MTHFR genetic issues aside, which we can talk about, the less you even need to really worry about your methylation status, right? There's a good chance if you're eating these foods regularly, already right off the bat, you're probably in pretty good shape.
If you're tired of your health issues dictating your life and you're ready to explore functional medicine labs and holistic health practices, this message is for you. At Natural Health Rising, our clients have defied the odds, naturally improving conditions like multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, EOE, Graves' disease, Hashimoto's, lupus, digestive issues, hormone imbalances, and more. Imagine reclaiming your energy and mental clarity, getting rid of pain and inflammation, enjoying time with your loved ones, engaging in your favorite hobbies again, and eating with confidence, knowing exactly which foods benefit your health. If you're ready to feel less stressed and stop the endless cycle of doctor's visits with no clear answers, then it's time to take the first step towards a healthier, happier life. Apply for a free health consultation today and just use the link in the show notes, choose a date that works for you, fill out a short form, and you'll be on your way to discussing how to holistically heal your body with me or a member on my team. I look forward to helping you transform your health and reclaim your life. Now, do they need to eat one from each group, like a betaine group, a choline group, and a methylfolate group?
That's a really great question. So if you have MTHFR issues, that folate you're getting from leafy greens, avocados, and other sources, what happens is your body has a difficult time converting that folate into the active form, which is called methylfolate, or 5-MTHF. If you see it on a supplement, that's how it would be written. Mm-hmm. So chances are, if you have an MTHFR mutation like myself, even if you're getting a lot, you have to get a ton of folate from the diet for it to make a difference, because you have impaired conversion. Your body's not doing a good job of converting it to that active form. So, but the good news is you can make up for the difference with focusing more on the foods rich in choline, like eggs and beef liver, and the foods high in betaine. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a neat little trick too. And it's one of many reasons why you should not freak out if you have an MTHFR mutation. So the first rule of thumb is get as much folate as you can from your diet. It doesn't mean you can't convert any of it to the active methylfolate. It just means it's reduced. And then get the methyl groups elsewhere, or in addition to, would be a better way to say it, from the choline group and the betaine group.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah, cool. So let's continue our little biochemistry lesson. So
I feel like I'm back in med school.
hopefully I'm not being too complicated.
No, I love it. Let's
do
it.
Awesome. So those methyl groups also get used in something called the methylation cycle. And the methylation cycle is a complex biochemical process, but really at the end of the day, the ultimate end goal or end product of this whole methylation cycle is to produce something called SAMe, which is S-adenosylmethionine. And I like to think of SAMe as like the delivery truck for these methyl groups. So it's not just enough to get methyl groups from the diet. It's actually, we need, there's more to it than that. Once we have those methyl groups in the diet, some of them get used to make SAMe, and then SAMe will then in turn deliver. Think of the SAMe as like the boxes, and the SAMe is the Amazon delivery trucks, delivering them to wherever they need to go throughout the body. So without the delivery trucks, it'd be chaos. It'd just be like a pile of boxes. And there'd be a lack of logistics of knowing like, what are these boxes? Where are they going? What are they going to get used for? So SAMe can sort of deliver these methyl groups in a targeted way to wherever they need to go. So that's another reason why we need these methyl groups from folate in the diet, from choline, from betaine or betaine. Some of those methyl groups actually get used to build the truck, right? To actually make the SAMe. So those same methyl groups that get used to build the truck then are also getting delivered by that truck as well, if that kind of makes sense. So, all right, are we good up to this point?
Yes.
Any clarification? Okay.
No, we're good. Okay,
cool. Awesome. All right, so we have our methyl groups from the diet. We have our SAMe, if our methylation cycle is working well and optimally. Now the important part. What do these methyl groups get used for? This is where we get into the more practical side of it. So let's go through the list, because I actually have them written down, because there's a lot of things, a lot of really important things in the body. Firstly, methyl groups are like your body's own personal mechanic. They can actually help to repair DNA. So if we're lacking methyl groups from the diet, that DNA damage can accumulate, which is not good. Methyl groups are also responsible for a process in the body known as epigenetics. So a lot of us in the functional medicine world have heard this term, genes load the gun, but the environment is the trigger. When you say that, without whether you realize it or not, you're actually talking about methylation. So genes load the gun, the environment is the trigger. Well, one role that these methyl groups play in the body is attaching to DNA. So SAMe delivers the box, the methyl group. It attaches to the DNA, and then that can silence the gene, the DNA. So why do you want to do that? Well, let's say it's a cancer gene. The methyl groups attaching to the DNA can silence that cancer gene and prevent it from expressing. So you might have a genetic predisposition, whether it's cancer or maybe even autoimmunity, but if you're optimally methylating, you can, it's almost like a dimmer switch on the gene. You could prevent that DNA from being expressed, which actually says we have a lot more control over our health outcomes than we realize. Not everything's just predetermined. So we should thank our methyl groups for silencing the bad genes. Folate is also required to make neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. So I like to think of folate as one of the ingredients that, like baking a cake, for serotonin and dopamine. We need other ingredients like vitamin B6 and iron and tryptophan, which is an amino acid, to make these neurotransmitters. But folate is one of those key ingredients. So if we're missing that, and if we're experiencing depression or anxiety, that might be one place to look, is to see if we're deficient in in that active form, especially the methylfolate.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be like trying to bake a cake without the eggs,
Right.
right? You're not going to get a
Wouldn't,
cake.
wouldn't
It's
be
just,
very good.
no, it's just some kind of slop, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what it would be. All right. So this is pretty cool. Up to 60 to 70% of all of these methyl groups, it's a very high percentage, up to 70% go towards making a key nutrient in the body called PC, or phosphatidylcholine.
I want to take a moment to introduce you to a powerful resource that could transform your health. If you or someone you love is battling an autoimmune disease, or if you're plagued by unexplained symptoms like brain fog, chronic fatigue, digestive issues, or joint pain, then I have a webinar that is crafted specifically for you. This free webinar will reveal the top 4 mistakes that might be keeping you stuck and unwell. And more importantly, it will guide you through what you should be doing differently. From identifying the right lab tests that will reveal the actual causes of your symptoms to the immediate nutrition and lifestyle changes that can help. This webinar is packed with valuable, actionable insights that can seriously change your life. So don't miss out on this opportunity to start feeling vibrant and healthy again. Click the link in the show notes to sign up or visit naturalhealthrising.net/webinar. That's naturalhealthrising.net/webinar to change your life today.
So in a way, you could say, you could wrap up this whole conversation and say, okay, we're done, right? You get all these methyl groups in the diet, and most of them get used up to 70% to make phosphatidylcholine. That's a lot of those methyl groups getting directed towards that function. And so what is phosphatidylcholine? What is PC? Well, it actually gets used to make our cell membranes. Mm-hmm. We have something like 50 to 100 trillion cells in the body. And roughly about 50% of our cell membrane composition is this phospholipid called phosphatidylcholine. So if we're not getting methyl groups in the diet, we can be deficient in phosphatidylcholine. Then we make like wonky, broken cell membranes. Like we talk about leaky gut, but what about leaky cell?
Yes.
Yeah. And then we have like poor integrity of our cell membranes. And we have like poor cell to cell communication can occur. Mm-hmm. Or even the contents of our cells are like spilling out. So that's pretty chaotic, as you would imagine. Mm-hmm. So that phosphatidylcholine also gets used for bile production. And bile is involved in liver detoxification, in transporting toxins from the liver to the gut, where they eventually get eliminated. We call that phase 3 detoxification. So fun side note, I'm sure you're aware of this, PC is very often used in mold detox protocols because it helps to transport these mycotoxins or mold toxins out of the body.
Yes.
Another clinical pearl, which I learned from Dr. Ben Lynch, I highly recommend for anyone wanting to learn more about this. The book Dirty Genes was one of the very foundational books where I sharpened my knowledge on this topic of methylation. And he has this concept he calls the choline shortcut, or the phosphatidylcholine shortcut. So, all right, we've said that up to 70% of these methyl groups go towards making cell membranes, right? Or phosphatidylcholine, which then in turn helps make our cell membranes, right? So if you either optimize for phosphatidylcholine intake in the diet or supplement with PC, we'll just call it PC for short, then your methylation cycle has to work less harder to make that PC because you're getting it in the diet or from a supplement. So suddenly you're taking the burden off of that whole methylation cycle, which is spending a lot of work making SAMe to deliver methyl groups to make PC. So we can kind of alleviate that burden off of our methylation processes by getting it in the diet, supplementing with it. And then it's sort of like folate or these other methyl groups are the inputs for the methylation process, but PC is the main output. So there's two ways we can optimize for that. We can get more methyl groups, like more of the input, or more PC, which is more of the output. So maybe we don't have to rely as much on methyl groups in the diet, that kind of thing. Hope that makes sense. But he calls that the choline shortcut.
Okay.
So there's more. Should I keep going?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So up to 20 to 30% of methylation activity, these methyl groups go towards the production of creatine. I feel like creatine, maybe it's just my algorithm, but it's like,
no, it's blowing up.
Media.
It's blowing up. I watched a video about taking Dr. Rhonda Patrick's podcast. It was something he was like talking about taking 10 grams before you go to bed on a night that you're really, you're not going to get enough sleep. And I was like, okay. And one night I tried it. I took like 8 grams of creatine or something. So yeah.
Did it work for you?
You know what? I have this interesting experience with creatine where I think it makes me break out.
Ah, interesting.
Don't know what that means.
I haven't heard that one, but we know the body's weird. Anything is possible.
So I was on a creatine train again. And then I was noticing, I was like, you know what? I'm doing an experiment right now with my body and that, and seeing what's kind of happening in that realm. Is it impacting my hormones in some sort of way? But I did feel very energized and on top of things the next day. So
amazing.
Maybe it worked.
A little bit of a trade-off.
Yeah.
Kind of a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned feeling more energized, right? Well, so one thing that really the main thing that creatine is doing at a biochemical level is it's recycling ADP back into ATP, right? ATP is the body's primary energy currency. We make our entire body weight in ATP every single day, which is just crazy, bananas. Like I still have a hard time wrapping my mind around that.
Insane.
Like every 24 hours, we make our whole body weight in ATP. So we need, after we use that ATP, it becomes ADP, which is sort of like inactive. We can't use that for energy. So creatine pushes it back or recycles it back into ATP. And it's obviously popular for workouts because it's making those workouts efficient. You're getting more reps in because your stamina, your energy is literally lasting longer. So who doesn't want that? So
everybody wants more energy.
Everyone wants more energy, and everyone's talking about creatine, but no one's talking about methylation. Because if we're supporting methylation, we're actually supporting our own body's natural production of creatine. So last summer, I remember having a conversation with a personal trainer friend of mine. And he doesn't have the background in like the functional medicine side of things, but I was kind of explaining to him some of these basics and saying, hey, you should have all of your personal training clients test their homocysteine, test their folate levels in the blood, or through organic acids, test their MTHFR genetic status, as a way to sort of help optimize their performance in the gym, which I think would be a pretty like high level approach. And would also as a trainer give you like an edge maybe over the competition, that you're incorporating some testing, which I think would be kind of neat.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
So we've got repairing DNA.
Yeah.
We've got epigenetics, which essentially means we are controlling the outcome of our gene expression.
Yes.
Which means just because your grandma had diabetes doesn't mean you are going to get diabetes. You can actually control that in your life, as an example. Methylation is impacting bile production. It plays a role with creatine synthesis.
Right.
So we have like this long list so far. Highlight a couple more bullet points. I want to get into like, okay, some of the myths around this stuff, and then like, what do we get to do as well?
Beautiful. I love it. So yeah, a few more bullet points. Methylation is also involved in the production of a nutrient called carnitine. So a lot of people don't know about carnitine, but we need carnitine to burn fat for energy. So that's another way that methylation is somewhat involved in energy production. Because if we're undermethylating, we can become deficient in carnitine, and then we're not burning fat for energy very well. And I've seen this clinically, especially this is something you can measure on organic acids, is your carnitine levels or carnitine status, is weight gain or weight loss resistance. Because without that carnitine, you can't burn fat for fuel. So the fat may be more likely to get stored in the body. So there might be potentially a link with poor methylation and weight gain even. So that's pretty fascinating. And then the last big one is that these methyl groups also get used to activate dozens of other genes or enzymes in the body. Going back to what I said earlier, that sort of master key analogy. So there are dozens of genes or enzymes in the body that are called methyltransferase enzymes, which means they need a methyl group. That's basically what it means. It needs that methyl group to get attached to that enzyme so that enzyme could get activated. Think of like the enzyme as being like a car, and the methyl group are the keys to the ignition. So without the keys to the ignition, those enzymes are useless. So some of these enzymes are involved in really key processes in the body. Like I mentioned, breaking down histamine, right? One of these methyltransferase genes is involved in breaking down histamine. Another is involved in breaking down dopamine. If you can't break down your dopamine levels stay too high and you end up with anxiety, overwhelm, feeling really stressed all the time. It's also involved in breaking down estrogen. Okay, so that's also a methylation process. The ability to break down estrogen through the COMT enzyme, right? So MT, methyltransferase, COMT, that needs a methyl group to activate it. So any enzyme that ends in MT is methyltransferase, needs that methyl group. And there's so many, but those are just a few examples. So it's a lot. Methylation is involved, and there's more, right? But those are some of the big key ones.
Yeah.
And and then I know we wanted to get into some of the more practical stuff.
Yeah. So this is impacting literally everything. Our hormone balance, our disease expression, chronic disease, autoimmunity, mystery symptoms that people deal with, energy levels, like literally every single function of our body, any symptom that could be coming up, there could actually be a root cause link back to this methylation. So
you could say that. Anything, symptom someone is coming to you with, you might say, well, it could be a methylation issue. Like that could always be possible.
Okay. So, but here's the cool thing.
Yeah.
It's actually much more simple to address than people think, right? I mean, you talked about the nutrition piece so far. So we talked about like the different food groups that are going to build those methyl groups.
Yep.
What else is somebody doing to support methylation?
Yeah. So it's also not only about what they're doing, like the nutrition side of it, but also what they're not doing.
Okay.
So here's what I mean by that. So we talked about the nutrition component. We need folate from the diet, choline, betaine. At the same time, there are certain factors which can block or inhibit or slow down methylation. So in no particular order, one of those would be yeast overgrowth, especially candida.
Okay.
So candida, it produces this byproduct or toxin called acetaldehyde. And that toxin is actually a methylation inhibitor or blocker. It inhibits the methylation cycle. Another would be alcohol. Okay, same reason. When you drink alcohol, your liver produces acetaldehyde as a byproduct, and that's a methylation inhibitor. So if you have an MTHFR mutation, especially 2 copies of the 677 variant, you're homozygous for that gene. Well, you add alcohol to that equation, it's going to be pretty disastrous because you already probably have a bit of a genetic handicap already for your ability to methylate, right? Or to make these methyl groups and pass them around with SAMe. Heavy metals, especially mercury and lead, are the two that are most well studied, can inhibit methylation. Stress actually causes you to burn through your methyl groups faster. And then another interesting one is lack of exercise or a sedentary lifestyle. So there was this really cool study done, published in a paper around 2014. I think the journal was called Epigenetics. I wrote this one down. It was called An Integrative Analysis Reveals Coordinated Reprogramming of the Epigenome and the Transcriptome in Human Skeletal Muscle After Training. If someone wanted to look this up themselves, but I know that's kind of a mouthful.
Maybe you can send the study.
Yeah, let's do that. That'd be awesome. So I'll kind of explain it simply. It's kind of a funny, what they did was kind of a funny study. For 3 months, they took these healthy volunteers and they wanted to see if they can induce methylation changes by having them only exercise one leg. Okay. So they had them vigorously train one leg for 3 months and then leave the other leg like sedentary.
I wouldn't want to be a part of this study, but I'm glad they did it.
Like one really jacked muscular leg, right? After really funny. And so they did this for 3 months. So the untrained leg was basically the control in the experiment. And what they found was there was a massive uptick in methylation activity in the leg that was exercising. Wow. They did biopsies of the muscle.
Wow.
They found almost 5,000 sites across the genome that were upregulated through methylation activity. As you probably wouldn't be surprised by, those genes were mostly involved in muscle and glucose metabolism.
Okay.
Right? Because when we exercise, we're burning more glucose. So actually, you could say that study proves that literally just moving your body and exercising will improve methylation activity. So going through that list again, reducing stress so that you're not burning through these methyl groups as fast, because we need them. We need those methyl groups for the DNA repair, for epigenetic expression, neurotransmitter production, all those things we talked about. Then as far as things like candida and heavy metals, that's where functional lab testing can be extremely valuable and helpful to see, we can look at, for example, an HTMA and see, are we excreting mercury or lead or other heavy metals through the hair? We can assess to see if there's candida overgrowth through stool testing or through organic acids. And that's important to look at, because maybe you are eating a really good diet. You're getting plenty of folate, choline, betaine, methionine in the diet, those methyl donor groups from your diet.
Are you battling brain fog, skin issues, fatigue, or just feeling sluggish overall, like you need to hit the reset button? These could be signs that your body is struggling with excess toxins. So instead of navigating complicated detox programs, you can actually incorporate one simple natural solution into your daily routine to help reduce toxin overload and get your energy back. Energybits algae tablets are packed with spirulina and chlorella, which are superfoods known for their powerful detoxifying and health boosting properties. These algae work at the cellular level to bind and remove heavy metals and mold, support your immune system, and reduce overall inflammation, all without the need for complicated protocols or harsh side effects. Plus, they're loaded with protein, essential fatty acids, and a range of vitamins and minerals, providing an easy, holistic approach to improving your health. They're even safe for kids to take. So kickstart your detox and boost your mental clarity and energy levels by trying Energybits today. And as a special offer for my listeners, use the promo code NHR20 at checkout to receive 20% off of your purchase. Visit energybits.com or click the link in the show notes to start feeling the benefits today. Remember, the code is NHR20. Now let's dive back into the episode.
But maybe there's other factors that are slowing down your methylation despite the fact that you're eating a good diet. So when you dig into it, we kind of coming full circle here. We talked about that holistic picture and looking at all aspects of the body. Because someone might have high homocysteine, in their blood saying, okay, there's a methylation issue here. But then you look at their folate levels in their blood or through organic acids, and those levels look great. They look optimal. So it's like, well, maybe something else is going on here. Like the client's telling me, oh, I eat lots of leafy greens and eggs and organ meats and beets and avocados. And I'm like, you're probably getting plenty of methyl groups in the diet. It's probably something else blocking your methylation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where does B vitamins come into this, like a methylated B vitamin?
Yeah. Okay, really great question. So within the methylation cycle, and if this might be helpful, I could even share a diagram.
Okay.
Take a look at that really quickly, just for 20, 30 seconds.
Yeah. If you're on Spotify, you can watch this video. And if you go to YouTube, you can also watch the video so that you can see the diagram as well. Awesome.
I love that. And I will promise to do my best to explain it to those who can't watch the visual here. But this is an image this was an image I created for the organic acid course that I teach. It's called Organic Acid Testing Simplified. This was very largely inspired by Dr. Kara Fitzgerald. So I do want to give her credit because she was actually my first introduction to methylation. Her and Dr. Ben Lynch are kind of my go-tos for methylation understanding. So what we're looking at here is the methylation cycle. Earlier, I mentioned at the end of the cycle, SAMe is the final end product of all of the efforts of this cycle go towards making that SAMe. That's what then goes and delivers the methyl groups throughout the body. And so, yes, it's a complex biochemical process, but what I did here is color-coded everything. So in green, in the green coloring, you're going to see nutrients. And these nutrients, they act as cofactors in the assembly line of this methylation cycle. So in other words, think of them as almost like the fuel for the cycle to be moving along at a nice steady pace. So if you're lacking in one or more of these key nutrients, the cycle slows down, homocysteine can start to build up, and you'll be deficient in SAMe. You won't have enough Amazon trucks. So if we look throughout the cycle, to answer your question, we see how often these B vitamins pop up. We see B6, we see B2, which is riboflavin, B3, which is niacin. We see folate in a couple places, which is vitamin B9, actually. Folate is B9. The MTR enzyme here, which converts homocysteine into methionine, that's dependent on vitamin B2 and B12. So again, if you can't see the visual, the point I'm trying to get across here is that we need nearly the whole entire suite or complex of B vitamins as cofactors for this methylation cycle to be working properly. Another reason that's important to mention is because if we're just focused on getting folate in the diet, or we test for our MTHFR status and our doctor says you need to supplement with methylfolate or 5-MTHF, that might still not work if you don't have the other B vitamins in the cycle.
Yeah.
Right. So it's this kind of like symphony where we have all the brass, the woodwinds, the percussion, the strings. We need everything to be working. And that's where it might sound complicated, but ultimately everything comes back down to the basics. The more we're eating some of those foods I mentioned earlier, these very nutrient dense foods, and yes, animal protein does happen to be the most bioavailable source of B vitamins, with organ meats being number one at the top of that list, but also eggs, fish, chicken, beef, pork, right? These are the most abundant sources of B vitamins, with the exception of folate, which we actually can get a lot through leafy greens, avocados, asparagus, broccoli. But that's hopefully answers that question of where B vitamins come into the equation.
Yeah. Do you think that people out there, now this is not medical advice for anybody when it comes to supplementation, but taking a methylated B vitamin, would that be helpful for people what if they don't know if they have methylation issues currently and they have a lot of symptoms? Like, what's the first thing they should do? Would taking a methylated B vitamin be helpful for them? Would it be potentially harmful?
It's a really good question. My personal philosophy is very diet and lifestyle forward. Like, I think we should have all of the diet and lifestyle foundations dialed in as much as possible. Maybe before reaching for some of these supplements. In my practice, I love to say to my clients that the word is literally supplement. It's not replacement. I didn't say, hey, did you take your replacements today? Right? Which would be kind of funny. That's my dad joke for the day. So yeah, we say, we call it a supplement. And so ideally, I'm of the belief that we get most of these nutrients and B vitamins and minerals from the diet, from bioavailable sources. I also like to say you can't beat nature's packaging. So I'm very much okay with using a B complex in a case where someone's already eating a really good, well-rounded, nutrient-dense diet, but they're still showing evidence of B vitamin deficiencies. Now, why would that happen, by the way? Why would someone be eating a really good diet, but they're still deficient in B vitamins? My top two answers would be stress. Yep.
I was going to say digestion and gut issues as well.
Yeah, and gut issues would be my second. Exactly. Yeah. Malabsorption. You have a messed up gut, you've got leaky gut, and you're not absorbing those B vitamins, then maybe we do need to use a B complex, even if it's just short term. I don't necessarily want someone to have to be on a B complex forever, but I'm okay with plugging the hole and getting them back on their feet, getting that individual like a quick win, because B vitamins are so important for energy too, for good mitochondrial function. But in the long term, again, do we want someone being on a B complex for life? In my opinion, no. I'd rather that we all be focusing on just eating the best diet as possible, reducing stress, keeping our gut healthy. Yeah.
Okay. We have to answer this question.
Okay.
We need to demystify the whole MTHFR conversation.
I can't wait.
Let's just go into it. We don't have much time left, so let's get straight into what we think about this. I know we both agree, so I'll let you go ahead and take it away.
Well, it's good we have the diagram up here because this will help with the visual aspect of it. So in this sort of gold lettering on this diagram, we have enzymes. So anything in gold lettering is an enzyme. Anything in green is a nutrient. So at the top left here, we have MTHFR, methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase. And you don't need to memorize that. It's not important. What's important is that this enzyme, what it does is it converts our dietary folate down here. When we eat those leafy greens, it converts dietary folate, which is mostly in this THF form. And that enzyme converts it into a methylated form of folate. So it's actually adding a methyl group to the folate. That's what it's doing. That enzyme adds a CH3, a methyl group to the folate, and then becomes methylfolate. That's it. That's what it does. If you have this MTHFR gene mutation, like myself, that ability for that enzyme to do its job can be reduced. Or, it could be reduced up to 60 to 70%, especially if you have two copies, if you're homozygous. And you could test this through the blood, you could test this through saliva. You only need to run the test once in your life because your genes never change. So it's kind of a one and done thing. You test for your MTHFR status, and then you know if you have a mutation in the gene or not. Okay. I want to make the case why you may not need to test or why this might not matter as much as you think it does. So the answer actually goes back to what we talked about earlier, which is that if you can't convert folate into methylfolate, which is important in the sense that we have that methylfolate as a source of methyl groups in the body. We can get those methyl groups through other places. We can get them from choline in the diet. We can get them from the betaine or betaine, right? There's also, within this cycle, there's a backup mechanism here, which is really smart of nature to design it this way. This BHMT shortcut here, even if we are lacking in the active methylfolate, we can still move this methionine cycle along, it's called, with betaine and choline as methyl donors, as the methyl groups that would move that along. And so that's a little tricky to explain if you can't see it. So, but the biochemistry aside is we can make up the difference with focusing heavily on getting a lot of folate in the diet to try to overcome the mutation, because it would never be the case that we would have 100% reduced ability to convert folate into methylfolate. It's never 100%. We can always do this to some extent. And so we can kind of like make up for that by eating lots of folate in the diet, like lots of leafy greens and avocados. And then again, eggs, liver, all those other
beets, spinach.
Yeah, beets, spinach. Yep, exactly.
Animal proteins. Yeah.
That's right. And then keep your stress low so you're not burning through the methyl groups, right? Don't drink alcohol. If you want good methylation, I'm sorry, don't drink alcohol. I don't know what to tell you, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, if we want to have an exceptional life, I think sometimes we need to do exceptional things, which might mean swimming upstream against the tide a little bit and willing to, you know, catch some shit from your friends for like not drinking alcohol.
Don't approximately like 60 to 70% of people have this mutation? Exactly. So
yeah, it is in certain ethnicities, it's up to 50, 60, 70%. So there's a more of a likelihood that if you don't know what your MTHFR status is, that you do have it. There's more of a likelihood that you do than you don't.
Yeah.
So it's extremely common. So if more than half the population has at least one MTHFR genetic mutation, then like you're not a mutant. MTHFR is not a disease.
Yeah.
And I should clarify, I maybe should have mentioned this earlier, but every single person on the earth has the MTHFR gene. It's a matter of how that gene is behaving for you. If you have the mutation in it, you might have some reduced capacity for its ability to function. But it's really not a big deal if you're focusing on the methyl groups in the diet. And then ideally, if you can, especially if you're highly symptomatic, run some tests, check homocysteine. That's a great starting place. Even better, check B12 and folate in the blood. Even better, test your gut and check for heavy metals. You're doing those things. I would be shocked if your methylation was still wonky or under functioning.
Amazing. Right on time. Yeah. So everybody can stop stressing so much about this by de-stressing, cutting alcohol, eating some of the foods we talked about, and then of course diving deeper into things like gut health and toxins that might also be holding us back. It's actually pretty simple.
It is actually pretty simple.
Yeah.
It's you go down these rabbit holes sometimes, and they end up leading you back to, as complex as they might seem, it's like, oh, this actually just comes back to the basics, the foundational things. And I always find that almost kind of like funny how it works like that.
Do you have like 2 more minutes to do a speed round and we'll close off?
Yeah, I love it. Let's do a speed round.
Okay. What is the most overhyped supplement that's not worth the money that you avoid?
Overhyped supplement. You know, I think at the moment, I'm a bit skeptical of the whole injectable peptides sort of movement, only because I feel like people are using those approaches as a substitute for the basics. like where they might not actually really truly have the basics in place. And it's sort of like a shiny object. It's kind of sexy. It's almost like a status symbol in a way because they're expensive. And whether they're injectable or in an oral capsule form, these peptides are pricey. Yeah. And there's like 100 other things I would do first before I would do that.
100%. What is your favorite thing to do for stress reduction?
Yoga and meditation and walking.
Okay. What's the best purchase you've made in the last year that cost you less than $200?
It was close to that. Does that count?
Yeah.
But fine. It was a little red light panel. It's called the Loom Box. And it's handheld. And I use it for red light therapy, primarily on my thyroid, actually. Even though I've put my thyroid Hashimoto's into remission, but I still want to maintain the work that I've done. So I use it to kind of heal and regenerate thyroid tissue. So it was a little more than 200, kind of cheating. But at least within the past year, that's been kind of my favorite little doodad or biohacking tool. Awesome.
Yeah. I have a red light panel, like a little bit bigger than my head. And I love to use it there as well.
Awesome.
Okay. Last question. What is one tip that you want to leave with the listeners that they could implement this week to help them live a healthier, happier life?
One tip would be cut out added sugars and processed foods from your diet. I think that can make a massive difference in your overall health. That's almost probably obvious, actually, I would think, to most people, but maybe easier said than done. Maybe a better answer would be, if I were to start my health journey over again, or if I was helping someone who didn't know where to start, the honest answer I would give to them as far as a starting place would be to start with your mindset and believing that healing is possible, because everything starts with that limitation or bottleneck. Like you'll only heal as far as your mind will allow you to. And if you don't believe that it's possible, you won't implement these strategies. You won't make the sacrifices. You won't do the work. And so that also requires you have self-esteem, that you believe in a better possible future for yourself, that you're deserving of that. And I truly think everyone is deserving of that no one deserves chronic illness. And I think that's the main motivator for what I do, why I get up every day to help people navigate these murky waters and to help them live their best life again.
Beautifully said. Yes. Cool. Mindset. And, with that, any sort of like trauma stuff that might be wrapped around that as well. It's like that stuff's got to be dealt with. And I know, that influences autoimmunity as well. So such an important piece that gets to be taken care of.
Agreed.
Okay. And where can the listeners find you if they want to connect or work with you or learn more?
Okay. So I go by The Mindful Nutrivore online. So you can find me at themindfulnutrivore.com, on Instagram at themindfulnutrivore. I've kept that name for 10 years. It's kind of stuck. So I keep that name consistent across my social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, even, and my website. You could also probably find me by just Googling Ryan Monahan. Although, as funny as this is to say, there is another Ryan Monahan who does functional medicine. So just make sure not to confuse me with the other Ryan Monahan. So I'm based out of Colorado, and he's based out of, I think, a clinic in California. And I do personal one-on-one coaching with clients. And we run all these labs to kind of assess what's going on with their health. And I've been in practice for about 10 years doing that, working with clients from all around the world and helping people to live their best life.
Well, thank you so much. We'll put all the links in the show notes. You are a wealth of knowledge for that's for sure. We got so deep into the biochemistry as well as all the lifestyle things. And I think that was so helpful for everybody listening. So thank you so much for coming on the show for a second time.
Thanks for having me again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining me on the Natural Health Rising podcast. I hope this episode empowered you to take action and take control of your health and gave you the tools you need to improve your health naturally. If you found value in today's conversation, please subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with someone that you care about so that they can live a healthier, happier life too. Remember, the information provided in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any illness or medical condition. If you're looking for personalized support to finally get to the root cause of your health struggles, I work with clients worldwide using functional lab testing, custom health protocols, and one-on-one support. Just visit the link in the show notes to book a free health consultation with me or someone on my team so that we can see what's possible for you. Thank you for listening and keep striving to become your healthiest, happiest self. See you in the next episode.